All set? Okay. I think we're ready to begin. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming to this kind of extraordinary session of the Warrant Committee, penultimate meeting of the Warrant Committee, I hope, in anticipation of the annual town meeting. Thank you very much for coming. I'm calling the meeting to order. Our first order was to have been to approve our minutes from our last meeting. I understand they will be circulated electronically later, so we can suspend that particular item and go right into the business at hand, which is the discussion of the budget articles, which have been revised. My understanding is that they've been revised to be in balance this year. There have been a series of discussions at a number of levels, both at the Select Board, the School Committee, Finance Committee, Capitol Buildings, et cetera. And the Warrant Committee is grateful to the members of these various committees and to Amy Dexter and our Town Administrator, Mike Dennehy, for the work they've put in to find the appropriate modifications to the budget so that we can present it in balance to the town meeting. I think it might be in order to have Mike and Amy come forward and just discuss where these final modifications and reductions have come. Again, the objective that I think we all have is that, yes, we've had a couple of surprises in terms of the increases in some of the expenses for the town, particularly with the health insurance premium, which came in at a very elevated number. And we had explanations, of course, about why that happened at our last meeting, and we understand that. However, that still left quite a gap for us to fill. The gap has been filled, and I think certainly the intention that everybody had and the objective that the various departments of the town is to maintain services at the level which the residents of the town have come to expect, and maintain fiscal responsibility as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to our Town Administrator, Mike Dennehy. Mike, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, thank you for taking time on a Saturday to work through this process. I think Chair Asher hit the nail on the head. It was a very productive week. The Select Board Finance Subcommittee and the School Committee Finance Subcommittee met with myself, Town Accountant Glenn Pavlicek, Mary Gormley, and we had a very productive meeting yesterday. On Wednesday, we sat down. So when we last left this committee, we were a little over $600,000 short, unbalanced. On Wednesday, we had a conversation with our general insurance carrier, Maya, and from that conversation, we were able to trim $100,000 from the general insurance for FY20. So if you do the math, and a lot of it's going to be walking through this step by step, what we went through during the course of the week. And I know school committee and superintendent, assistant superintendent work with their principals to talk about stuff. We sat down with our department heads to finalize that second round of reductions. So if you can bear with me, and I'll walk through what we walked through during the week. So if you follow the math, after Wednesday's conversation with Maya, we had the unbalance just over $500,000 at $503,544. During Monday night's testimony to your committee, the school department had mentioned $140,000 of their $975,000 cut was for the third round of a book group that they work with. I'm probably not phrasing that correctly, but basically over the last 2 years, they've started step one and step two. This would be the third step in that. That was $140,000. We decided rather than cut that from the entire and push that off a year, we moved that to one-time money. So if you add that back in, now we're at $643,554. So we added back the $140,000. The consensus was made, and again, it's still an estimate, but this committee met with Cook and Company on Wednesday night. We had a very good conversation with Cook and Company and met collectively, and we've trimmed what we anticipate a half-year savings with group insurance to $180,000 less than was budgeted, which would bring our shortfall, if you follow my math, to 643, 544 less 180. So we, what's that, 463?
463,544.
Right. From there, we started talking about the second rounds of cuts that were discussed this week, both by the principals, school committee, and the department heads. The school committee has school department has identified an additional $200,000 in cuts.
Mike, where did those come from?
Okay, specifically, those came from, bear with me one second. Yeah.
I guess the issue
yeah.
would be, the question, the overarching question, to move to the point, is we were disturbed when the superintendent and Dr. Pavlicek told us that there would be student-facing positions that were potentially at risk, which certainly was enormously concerning to all of us.
Sure.
Did we avoid that?
No. No. So they can extrapolate on it, but one elementary support teacher, $70,000, that would be a layoff. 0.2 FTE reduction in 5 non-core middle school teachers, $65,000. That's the difference in laying off the 5 and reposting as 0.8s for each of those positions. And the reduce the high school activity offerings by 50% was another $65,000.
Can that be replaced by activities fees that we can assess to the students and the parents should they want to participate? Or is it a loss of the activity altogether?
A loss of the activity.
A loss of the activity from the superintendent altogether? Wow, 35%.
$65,000 worth.
And those activities would be what? Mary, I'm sorry, I should have invited you up, I apologize. This is the superintendent.
I should have
forum.
started with the town side.
No,
then we
that's
wouldn't
fine,
have to
that's
go
fine.
back.
We can, if you're on it, this is the right time to do it because we're in real time.
Want me to wait?
No, that's all right. Just answer, if you can answer this question, it'll be great. And if you don't mind staying there, if they come up, that'll be great too.
So the cuts reductions, as the town administrator outlined, $65,000 in clubs and activities. So in the contract, there are a list of clubs and activities. Again, those are essential for college applications this year. This week, it was even highlighted more how much clubs and activities nationally, students applying to university matter. It's a third of the clubs and activities. They would be eliminated. And at the middle school, the town administrator articulated very well, 5 teachers will be let go, and they will be replaced with 0.8 teachers. Usually when that happens, a talented teacher doesn't take a 0.8 position until the end of the summer. Talented, gifted teachers, those teachers will be let go. They're not going to say, oh, next year I'll work 0.8 for you. We'll lose those 5 people to another district. What that will do is it will eliminate one music. They're in music, art, technology, STEM, and creative writing. So 5 courses will be eliminated. So let's take music. 1 course will be eliminated. This cut will eliminate options for students, and it will also drive class size because every time there's one of those courses, those 25 or 30 children have to be dispersed in another elective. And then at the elementary school, this was an override position. For 4 elementary schools, we had 1 technology expert that moved the district. Your 3rd graders take MCAS. We have these Chromebooks in the elementary school. So as a result of the override, we had 2 technology teachers who moved K-5. One owned 2 schools, the other owned the other 2 schools. And as one principal eloquently said, 3rd graders take MCAS online, 4th graders and 5th graders. We would revert back to 1 technology teacher moving the district. And so there were no classroom teachers. The principals spent a tremendous amount of time with Glenn, Assistant Superintendent Sheehan, and me. And at the high school, we've talked about class size in English, math, and science. There were no classroom teachers, so that's the decision of the leadership team on the 3 cuts at the reductions at the schools.
Thank you.
You
Dr.
asked a question
Pavlicek.
on what clubs. A lot of that will be determined by the high school principal in the fall. But the clubs range from some that you would say you probably can't cut, like student government and things like that, which technically are clubs. You would still run those. But then you get into the various different things. Is it the robotics club? Is it the Asian American Students Club? Is it, there are all these different activities.
Right.
And the high school principal will have to take a look at what the interest is in the fall, what the projected enrollment is in the fall, and make a determination, well, I only have so much money to pay stipends, so therefore only these particular clubs will run. And
Is it-
that'll be a determination by the high school principal.
Is it conceivable that participants in these clubs would be able to make a payment of some sort for membership? Is that
They
permitted?
currently do.
They do?
We have an activities fee currently.
And how,
That
what is that,
helps us
what is the
support it.
magnitude of that fee?
$50.
$75.
$75? So theoretically, if the activities fee were increased, theoretically, you could have some of these restored.
That's a double edge, because as
Understood.
a result of the override, we reduced
Yeah.
when we met with the Warrant Committee subcommittee, it was very eloquent. One of your members said, you have to pay to be on an athletic team at Milton High, so there's an athletic fee, and there's in the public schools, you pay to be on an athletic team, and you also pay to participate in a club already.
Quick math, to come up with $65,000, you'd have to double the athletic fee.
Double the athletic.
Activity fee.
Activity fee,
Activity fee is to be doubled. It's $150, which would be a tall order for many families.
yes.
But not an impossibility for some. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr.
So
Administrator.
I was remiss in mentioning when we first started that both the school committee and my board, the select board, both voted to approve of the last round of changes that are being discussed today. And again, I'll leave this group with something, I was gonna save it till the end, but we still haven't heard from the House Ways and Means Committee with respect to their budget or the Senate. So we anticipate, we cannot expect, but we anticipate those numbers to increase a little bit. And then I think it becomes, what do we restore? What are we talking about today that we can put back into the budget and not have to make these cuts? So it's unfortunately, it's still preliminary at the state level, what we're gonna
Mike,
see.
if, all right, so we'll expect Christmas in May or June. That'd be lovely. But what type of money would they come up with?
Last year, the net between the increase and the higher assessments was roughly $150,000.
Right, so we can't expect them to fix the whole problem, the
Correct.
$500,000, but they'll make a dent in it.
Right, and something that this committee may prioritize as something that they don't want as a part of the reductions we're talking about, might get prioritized or put back in when we find that money, if it's available at the state level.
Right, I think that would be something that we'd have to take up at a subsequent meeting. I
Correct.
mean, if it came in before the town meeting, that'd be terrific,
Yeah.
because then we could bring it up then. But at this point, we will look at the budget recommendations as you're recommending them. I mean, frankly, there isn't really much of an alternative. I know that you have looked under every rock and look at what's hidden, in the cookie jars in, the home ec rooms at the high school, if there still are such things. So, sorry, guys.
Consumer studies.
Oh, is that what they are? Oh, thank you, right. That dates me, doesn't it? I mean,
So the House and Senate budget, from what I'm reading, the projections are that it might be, they're projecting out that they're gonna have more money this fiscal year than in past fiscal years. So, because of the way the town meeting falls, there is no way that we will know, because the Senate doesn't even take up their budget until right before Memorial Day. So, we're not gonna have a conference committee report on anything yet. So, have you talked to the delegation about the concerns of our budget? And if so, what are they being receptive? Are they championing things?
Our delegation is fantastic.
I agree.
Yeah,
I just want to know
yeah.
what your conversations with them and whether or not they're aware of how difficult this budget is for us.
They are. They're not
Thank you.
aware of the specifics today, but I'm sure if
Okay.
they're not in attendance, they're watching or will watch.
Okay.
But I've been in coordination with most of their aides, and
Perfect.
they understand where we were at 2.8, how we got to 0.6, and where we're going today. So they're aware of it, and we talked about it yesterday. A lot of us keep hitting that refresh button at the state website to see if the Ways and Means budget comes out, so we could present
It
something
won't be out.
something brighter today, but unfortunately, it wasn't released as of late yesterday, so. But yeah, to answer your question, all three are in full support.
It probably won't be out until April. Just,
Right.
I mean, you know this,
Yeah,
so,
with a bow on it, hopefully.
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
A big one.
So if you follow the math, Mr. Chair, that $200,000 that the schools just spoke about brings our unbalanced to 263,544. In a series of conversations that the town accountant and myself had with department heads, we reduced further reduced the town side 95,748, which I can go through. But that brings the shortfall to 176,796. So as I discussed at the Warrant Committee meeting last Monday night, most of the town sides don't have much to give up.
Right.
We had two of the town departments, Council on Aging, where we're sitting today, and the building inspector, who actually, the FY20 budget submission was less than level funded for
Yes.
19. So
That was kind of remarkable. That
Right.
doesn't always happen.
Right, and we had departments like Bill Ritchie's that gave us a 4% reduction in the first go-around. So
Yes.
we basically went to police, fire, and DPW to look for the rest, and I can walk through that.
Do you want to give us just the highlights there? And I know the chiefs are
The
here.
majority of it is overtime again,
Oh, okay.
which is not people being laid off, but it's less people on the street, right? It's a level of service thing that I spoke to, I think, 2 weeks ago at this committee. From the public works side, we talked previously about level funding the snow dollars. That's going to remain consistent. Additionally, he's going to take $15,000 off of his $25,000 operational allotment for trees, tree plantings. We do have $40,000 in the capital budget that's been approved, and an additional 10 that will be remaining in the operational budget. That could get us 100 trees next year. So we're not eliminating the program, strong advocate for it, but that's one of the reductions we saw from Chase's side. So long and short is we took another $35,000 from fire, 15,000 from, $15,000 further from that personnel buyback that we talked about.
Right.
Where if the personal time isn't used, they tend to buy it back. We took another $15,000 from there, and we took another $20,000 from less equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, on the police side, it was $28,242 to give an even round number of a $55,000 reduction in overtime.
What does that translate to? 55,000 spread out over a year in terms of actual patrol people on the street or looking at emergencies. How does that factor into, I don't know if Chief King is here. Yes, he is.
If Chief wants to come up, I can.
Chief, can you, I don't know if you want to just say, in terms of maintaining security and service, this is, I think, where we are. We know the money has to come from somewhere, but we also know we have to provide service, and we rely obviously on you and your management to do that. How, in your opinion, is this a major problem, or are we going to be at risk? We're obliged to ask these questions.
That cut would be made, I can't identify the exact cut now,
course.
just because of the nature of the work, but
Right.
basically, the vast majority, well over 90% of that overtime tends to go to backfilling people who are out on whatever leave, family leaves, vacation times, et cetera. So that's a primary cruiser responding to calls. Some of that other overtime's investigations and community activities, attending, a substance abuse forum, or going to, participation in dare camps for kids and things like that. So, the first scale back would be the community stuff, obviously, you know what I mean? So we pick and choose a little more selectively in what we attend, because we have to pay those officers overtime to
course.
attend. That would be first. That amount probably would dip into the backfill, so I would identify what tends to historically be the quietest shifts in days of the week and times, and I would fill less of the cars, so there would be less cars on the street during those times.
Okay. I know it's very hard to project, but again, the question is, in the event of an emergency, a civil emergency of some sort, God forbid, we've seen these happen in other communities, would the town be at risk for not having an appropriate level of staffing as a result of these cuts, for something of that, a major magnitude event?
There's always a risk if you reduce your numbers just inherently, but, we have safety measures in place. We have mutual aid agreements with
Okay.
surrounding communities. If there was a crisis, we would deal with it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for looking at this also. This is not an easy thing for any of us. Mike, I'm sorry, please continue.
And then just, there's some rounding numbers. Library has another $2,506 to supply. And just to reiterate, that the main crux of the library reduction is closing the library on Sundays.
What was the amount saved there?
That's $23,233.
Can I ask a question? So,
Yes, please.
last time we looked at this, I think it was for half the year, but I just want everybody to notice it's all year now.
Yeah, the idea was that they would close some Saturdays and half the year on Sundays. Director Adamczyk's here, and he can speak to what his trustees had talked about. He wrote a pretty good impact statement, which I could read, or you could speak to the,
Will, do you,
Director.
if you can come up, that'd be helpful, because I think I want as much on the record as we can. And thank you for coming.
Hi, everybody.
This is our library administrator, as everybody
Yep,
knows.
Will Adamczyk, the library director. So regardless of what we were going to do, we were going to lose operating hours. There were a couple of things on the table, and all of these operating hours that we're talking about are basically overtime operating hours. They're not part of a regular shift for any of the library employees. One of the things on the table was summer Saturdays. The other thing was Sunday hours. We're currently open 28 Sundays a year, so we had looked at doing a combination of some Sundays and those Saturdays. But really, our thought was, if we were to close the summer Saturdays, let me put it this way, if we maintain summer Saturdays, we're open 6 days a week year-round. Pretty consistent schedule, and summer Saturdays are busy. We wouldn't want to be closed both days of a weekend. So the Sunday cuts, and the other difference is Saturdays were open for 8 hours, Sundays were open for 4 hours. You get more bang for your buck being open those Saturdays. So that was really what went into that decision.
Does anybody have any other questions? I know this was an area of concern
Yeah,
that was
it-
brought
it-
up on a couple of
right.
occasions. Because I know this is something that many of the townspeople take
Right,
advantage of.
weekends are a busy time, sometimes it's the only time people can get there, but again, it's the cost of the overtime that is the dollar savings in this
And
instance.
that's contractual, that we can't do anything with
Right.
at the moment.
But, Mr. Chair, it's important to note that the contract is under negotiation right now.
Right.
Correct?
Yes, well, I don't know if we've opened negotiations,
We
but,
haven't met yet.
No, there's a date set.
There is a date set, so that the hours could be negotiated to be changed moving forward. Am I understanding that correctly? mean, is
we
that a
can
possibility?
negotiate anything, I would imagine. But it's been in the contract for a very long time, and that doesn't mean it's written in stone, but,
Right,
um,
okay.
Thank you.
Doug?
Thank you for being here.
sure.
You noted a cut of $10,000 to reduce books and material purchases.
That's correct.
And if I remember correctly in your previous testimony, that digital materials were more expensive than the regular hardcover books. Does this represent, this cut, an actual reduction in materials, or is it a shift back from digital to, say, hardcover, so that overall the library isn't reducing its materials? Because I know that also affects your
Right.
state.
It does.
Like grants and-
So the $10,000 reduction affects the bottom line for state aid. We should, well, it will bring us slightly below that mark. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some, the trustees might be able to fill in that blank, but
Back up a little bit, Will, fill in the blank how?
with trust funds,
Trust funds.
if
Are
necessary.
those available?
They should be.
Could be, they could be made
They
available.
could be made available.
Because falling below that threshold would be unfortunate to lose
Right,
the
and
state
that's-
money.
It's a
That's a
significant
loss
amount
of
of money
about-
to state aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
about $35,000
Yeah,
more.
that's significant.
So, but in answer to the question, I think that the $10,000 reduction would be a percentage digital, a percentage print material. So it would probably be, and I haven't finished the numbers yet, but it would be close to like a 60-40 cut. 60%, well, I should say 60% of the 10,000 would come out of digital because it's more expensive, and the 40% would be print materials.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
Please.
Or comment. So the total budget that we're cutting from the library is 38.5
Yeah.
roughly.
Right.
From our quick calculations that the warrant committee did few months ago on the sale of the Kidder branch, it looked like we would be possibly able to receive about $30,000 annually.
Right.
And that was a conservative guess. So I'm just curious,
30,000, let's clarify, 30,000 annually in proceeds generated from the investment of the sale proceeds into appropriately managed funds would generate approximately 30 to 32,000 a year, just for everybody's clarification.
estimate.
Right,
rough
because-
estimate, rough estimate.
Well,
But, so then
no.
we're only looking at about $6,000 that we would have to cut from the library budget if that in fact did go through, correct?
Yes, theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna get sold.
We understand the point that's
Yes.
being
Thank
made,
you.
thank you. We get that.
Theoretically,
Or a
that's correct.
rhetorical question.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is wonderful, but it would also be terrific if cows expressed craft beer, but it doesn't happen, okay? All right, keep going.
All set?
Yeah, we're
All right, thank you.
So that summarizes the second round of reductions from the town side.
Okay,
And gets got our shortfall yesterday morning to 167,796. The next thing we discussed, and you have to bear with me, there's no sleight of hand going on here, but there's a series of moves to make sure we move some capital dollars, some one-time dollars, in order to make sure that we're ready for the barrels, the trash barrels to come, because that's a double-edged sword.
Right.
We're gonna see an increased revenue in the barrels. It's not punitive. Anyone who buys a $3 sticker or buys an annual sticker is gonna pay the same amount next year. I need to be perfectly clear with that. $156 for an annual sticker is gonna be $156 for a barrel, but we can appreciate some revenue from that. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but there's some resident non-compliance, and there's some collector, they're missing some bags without stickers, so. In order to get that $150,000 increase in revenue, we put the trash barrels, a portion of the trash barrels still need to be funded. We have about $175,000 of the $350,000 to pay for the barrels and get them on the street by July 1st. So we're looking for $175,000 of one-time money to do that. In order to do that, we had to take a series of events to get there. So we looked at the non-bonded capital, which was, bear with me. The non-bonded capital was $390,500. We talked to the school department. They're willing to sacrifice the $81,000 for the AP wireless in the school buildings. Their concern was with 6,000 students in their schools and a lot of them using devices and the need to make sure that the wireless system is working. But they're willing to forego that $81,000. So we can put $81,000, sorry?
Not forgo it,
Yep.
but to delay.
Delay it, sorry, yeah.
delay it.
Yes, sorry, correct.
Okay, so back up 1 second. We're talking about wireless AP in high-use areas. This doesn't restrict wireless use through the buildings. It just improves it.
Improve it, right? And delay is the correct word, thank you,
Delay.
Amy. They're gonna
It's very
delay.
spotty right now, though, Mr. Chair.
Very spotty?
Very
or-
spotty.
Or is it,
Very spotty. Many kids
Okay.
have to come up from the basement to get any signals.
boy, it sounds like my house.
Yes.
Oh, it doesn't stop Jack Dennehy from texting me during school hours.
Well, I think that's
Touche on
another
that one.
issue, right?
Supposed to be in the phone anyway.
Okay,
That'll be out of this too.
so this is something that will be delayed and implemented, but
It's still on their list.
under the
of-
circumstances, given the other alternatives, this is something we can deal with.
Right.
I got it.
So if you follow my math, and again, there's a lot of math going on here, we need $175,000 for the trash barrels.
Right.
If you take out the $81,000 that is going to be delayed for the AP wireless, that leaves us with $94,000 left. We anticipate, we had a lengthy discussion with the fire building committee on Thursday morning, and they're moving ahead with their OPM.
Right.
And they're in the process of negotiating that. They're quite confident that they're not gonna need all $670,000, which is what we allotted them.
Yes.
In one-time cash this year. It's a process that's going to take time. So we feel it's prudent to take $170,000 of that and reduce that 670 to 500, understanding that that is an obligation and it will be met, but that's not money they're gonna need tomorrow or
Right.
likely within the next fiscal year, so.
Right.
$170,000 would be put again towards the barrels, which would leave us with an extra $76,000, which we can then use on the operating side.
Is that
You follow my
something?
math?
I did.
We follow, and that's remarkable. My compliments. I think the committee joins in thanking all of the departments for coming up with this. So the question is, if you have 67,000 and you're looking to replace 65,000 activities fees, that's the part that really bothers me, that the kids aren't going to have some things that might otherwise be available. Is this something that we can consider, or are we going to keep that in abeyance until we know what's coming in from the state?
So the equation's not quite finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going. Shame on me. Keep going. I should know.
So that's $76,000 that's left over from the 94 we need for the barrels and the 170 we're asking
got it,
for
right.
for the fire building committee.
Yep.
Is going to be taken off the 167,796 and used to supplement the operational shortfall,
Okay.
which brings us to 91,796.
Okay.
Understanding that the school building committee is gonna need probably $40,000. My board approved that town meeting article Wednesday night to an unspecific amount, but has suggested that $40,000 is the number. We were gonna move $40,000 out of the $50,000 of the affordable housing trust money that we were gonna put forward. Again, this is a lot of moving parts.
It's okay.
So the school building committee will be funded with $40,000 of what we had assigned to the Affordable Housing Trust.
What we'd assigned, not that had been in, it was going to come out.
Correct.
Okay, because I don't want to kick over a beehive there.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
The additional $10,000 of the 50, if you will, 40 going to the Milton School, Public School Building Committee.
Right.
The other $10,000 would bring our total down to 81,796 if we used it for operational funding.
Where is that coming from, Mike?
The remainder of the 50,000
All right.
from the Affordable Housing Trust.
50,000, got it.
So that gets us to 81,796.
Okay.
The last two moves are less complicated. OPEB, we've made a concerted effort, and the bonding agency appreciates our intent to fund other pensionable benefits each year. We had $100,000 slated in there for this year. We don't want to stop that. We want to show the bonding agencies that we
Maintaining.
understand the concern. We're going to take $50,000 of that, leaving a remaining $15,000 from one-time cash to fund the OPEB trust, to continue to fund the OPEB trust, which would bring our total shortfall to $31,796. We met with the building commissioner, Joe Prondak. Last year, he collected $1.2 million in permit fees.
One person.
Well, the town did,
Yeah, yeah.
right? For all
But how many people are doing that?
there are, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6 staffers.
Really?
Yeah,
And
including
they're
our new
collecting that
code
level of,
enforcement officer.
can we clone them? I mean, these are people that are generating revenue from the town, for the
Right.
town.
Yeah,
That's kind
and
of exciting.
conservatively, we had done a 1.17 estimate on that.
Yeah,
In order to round up to the 1.2, we're gonna make it 31,796 in increased anticipated revenue from building permits this year.
okay.
And we are then balanced.
So now we've reached Oz. We've got to the Emerald City.
Right.
Very exciting.
Sure, yep.
I just want to clarify one thing on the fire station's building money. So in the balanced budget that was presented to you, in the original plan, we were putting $670,000 into the capital stabilization fund
Right.
related to the first phase of the fire station building committee. If you recall, February town meeting appropriated 2.7.
Yes.
The expected expenditure between that meeting and October town meeting was approximately $670,000. That's OPM and design work only, so without an approved project, that's only allowed to be bonded over 5 years. So we felt there was some risk there that if they went forward and spent that amount and then
We were
part
delayed.
of the project didn't get approved, that we'd have to bond that probably over 3 years by the time we got there. So we recognized the fact, we had some discussions with Dan Clark and
Brian Walsh.
Brian Walsh,
Yeah.
sorry,
Who
the
chaired
other
committees?
day.
Yeah, chair and co-chair.
Right, and we felt that to reduce that to 500,000 was probably reasonable
Yes.
because there's probably gonna be at least headquarters that potentially will be approved in the next year or two, and that in the event it didn't, we hopefully will have an opportunity in the next year or two that will have additional free cash if we feel that that's at risk, that we could put towards that,
So, and if
rather
that-
than doing it now to
And if
help
that
with
were
this.
having to be bonded, we're still looking at a relatively smaller amount of money
Right.
over 3 years at, a AAA rate would be 2.2%, 2.5%?
Probably a little higher.
A little
I think
higher.
it's more in the threes now. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
instead of being, right, we talked about the contract the other day.
Right.
The first phase of the contract is not going to exceed 670.
Right.
So really, you have 500,000 there. So really, you're looking at 170,000. So you could either go forward and bond that if a project didn't get approved, or we could backfill that with free cash or other available funds in the future.
Well, thank you for doing this work, honestly. Does anybody, Chris?
I do have a question. And this isn't with regard to the specifics, and I appreciate the amount of work that went into trying to put out this fire. I guess the thing that I worry about next year's budget crisis.
Yeah, of course. I
And
think we all do.
yeah, and I realize that there are certain things that we can't control for, like, for example, a 16% increase in the cost of insurance. But I wonder, to what extent are we using accounting principles to push money to a future concern or some future year? I don't understand. It's an honest question. I don't understand general accepted accounting procedures and how money gets shifted around. So I'm just curious to know, how much are we sort of just shifting to a future budget cycle?
Not that.
Do you want me to take that
Yeah,
question?
please.
Okay, so
Not that.
we're not shifting any accounting principles.
Okay.
Doing
So
that
zero,
by
that's
the
good,
letter of
thank
the
you.
law, but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but let me qualify that. In this balanced budget that's being presented, we are using $736,000 of free cash to plug the operating
That
hole.
was going to be my next question.
So you immediately start out fiscal year 2021 with an 700,000 of your budget that was filled with non-recurring monies. So you're starting out behind the 8 ball to begin with. Of that 736, we've identified, if you can justify that as being somewhat one-time in nature, then it's looked more or less unfavorably by the rating agencies and whatnot. So of that 736, we've identified 140,000 in the school department. That's for one-time expenses related to elementary curriculum materials. It's year 3 of a 3-year phase. So that's 140,000 in theory we won't need next year, so that's one time. We've identified 200,000 in debt service related to the useful life difference between what was bonded to plan. And then we felt that going forward, the rest of it, about 396,000, we could somewhat attribute to group insurance in the event that we're successful negotiating a plan design, that could potentially have a positive effect on fiscal 2021, that we could probably reasonably justify at least a portion of that as being one time, maybe not all of it. So even though it sounds like an extremely deep hole, some of it can be justified, and again, it's estimate, so there is
I understand that. So
not ideal situation.
So out of the total free cash, what percentage does this represent?
If
The
you-
736?
Yes.
It's 7 over 19, so a little under half. We received 1.92 in free cash for fiscal year 18.
Right. So we came out looking pretty good last year, and now we're giving it back to some extent.
Right, and
Okay.
historically, we've appropriated the balance of whatever was certified
Sure.
by DLS, but it's normally to capital. So we reduce that significantly to,
So the free cash
Help balance.
balance will be reduced.
well, the free cash balance,
Oh, there
we're
is no free-
completely
there's no
appropriating the
free, yeah,
1.9.
right.
736 to operations, the rest is pretty much to capital.
Amy, I appreciate the clarification, and thank you. And I guess, and this is, I guess, just a general question, maybe not a question as much as a comment. I mean, I'm thinking about when the budget cycle starts again next year, and we start to see budgets from all of the departments where there have been significant cuts, which is all of them, especially the schools, and to what extent are is each budget unit, put it that way, going to be encouraged to not be aspirational? In other words, I mean, I think there is such a disconnect from the initial budget that we received and where we are now. Some of it, even before I think we understood the shortfall. And I guess I don't know to what extent we want to be in this position again, where we're looking at completely unrealistic budgets. Again, I realize that we have a problem that we're trying to solve right now, and you're doing a great job solving this problem, but I'm very concerned about next year's problem.
I completely echo your sentiments. I will talk about what took place in the back rooms this week, and to that point, the schools sacrificed $81,000 of one-time money to improve the AP wireless, understanding that the trash barrel initiative is something that can generate revenue year over year. So they took a step back in order that the town can take a step forward and try to address that problem in years to come.
Right.
And we're gonna see that revenue stream continue. So collectively, we're trying to think how we can better serve the community at the same price while doing more with less. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I don't think many of the budgets came in with some crazy asks or wants.
Didn't say crazy.
Yeah, no,
Didn't say
and sorry, this is my brain. We're revenue restricted, right? We've talked about it over and over again.
Right.
That's where the infrastructure problem is in the town. I mean, most of the departments in town are doing less with more every single day. A lot of it comes from overtime
More
or,
with less.
time not spent with your families. We have salaried employees that are here today and, just go above and beyond. So, yes, we are identifying it, and we're trying to come up with solutions, how to generate some more revenue without burdening the taxpayer. Understanding that we're so revenue restricted that I don't want to call it the definition of insanity, but we may be back here again next year.
We're looking at to continue our literary aspersions here, our literary imagery. This is kind of the Blanche Dubois budget. We're depending on the kindness of others. And I don't know necessarily, we know what happened to Blanche. We don't necessarily want to end up there. So I think the question that we've talked about many times, and you and I have had conversations, I think the select board has had conversations, is to generate an expectation among some of the residents of the town, and I don't mean the people residents, I mean the institutional residents, that free ride can kind of be over, and it's time to help out and to be manifestly constructive to the town that makes what they do possible. And it's, pilot. And I'm beating this drum, and I probably beat it way too loud, and I'm sure my friends at Milton Academy and Curry College and B.I. Deaconess Milton and wherever else we're talking have to understand that this is something we all have to pull together, otherwise we're going to have a major problem. And this, when we're talking about eliminating teaching positions 2 years after an override, it really doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well with me. And my kids are through the public schools. I mean, if I had kids in the public schools, I'd be not happy at all. And I know there are some of us here who do. But we understand that you can't create a universe from the void. And this is where we are. So rather than elaborate further on that, I think we have to have a concerted effort, and I know the select board and other agencies in the town are thinking, talking, working towards this, but I think we have to put it into high gear, because we can't have this sort of a thing again. And to put you through what you've had to go through, and the boards of the town, and the people who are making the town work, anticipate that they might not have the tools that they need to do the jobs that they're asked to do, is not fair. And we know that there's a limit to what we can ask from the town, but we also know that there's more that we can ask from those who have not contributed appropriately. or what we consider appropriately. They have obviously a different perspective, but, you know, that's too bad. It's time for all of us to talk and be big boys and big girls about this. So I think we
To
can do
that point, Mr. Chair, the Selectman Farrington has convened the pilot committee for Thursday. So
Oh.
that committee is going to continue to meet and try to form some
I
progress.
I think that there would be great support among this committee if they need any help, any support, any perspective, any work that can be done, would be more than happy to talk to them about
And-
that, because
and-
we have ideas about that as well.
The other thing is, and we talked about it before, is the CFO model, right? This
Oh, yes,
committee,
definitely.
Select
Yeah,
Board,
yeah, yeah.
Town Government Study
Yeah,
Committee,
yeah.
my opinion, that's in the works. It's.
Oh, I think that'll make a lot of things a little bit more transparent and a little bit easier to coordinate, because, I mean, you work, Amy, Dr. Pavlicek, I mean, you're all doing yeoman's work here, but it's a great deal of coordination that has to, and doing this, this business that we all have to conduct.
Sure, yep.
Can I ask you a quick question, a tactical question?
Christine.
When we're looking at the revenue summary, the trash barrel revenue is not in the picture yet, correct?
It is, excuse me. It is. If you look at the colored sheet,
Yeah.
trash revenue increase, it's probably the 10th line down. Conservatively, we estimated at 150,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Got it.
We could see more than that, that's a conservative estimate.
Is there, I didn't even know we had an annual sticker. There's presumably some sort of communication plan associated with this?
Oh, correct, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the sooner the better. If it has to go to town meeting, May 7th, we will start that campaign.
Right.
And there's a cost associated with ordering and delivering annual stickers, and you can anticipate, we had the Solid Waste Advisory Committee met yesterday morning. Kathy Mirza, who's the Mass DEP rep for us. Opt-out programs are very successful. Usually 95% of the people stay in. And the education piece is huge. As we proactively enforced some of the non-compliance over the last month or so, several people have been in. We sold 61 annual stickers in February, which is unheard of. The town treasurer will tell you he may sell 10 in a February. That's because we were out there proactively stickering people and letting them know. Half of the people came in and said, "You got me." The other half said, "I didn't know we had to pay for trash at Milton." So the education piece
They've
is
been
huge, and it's half the reason why we're making the move we're making.
Right.
That, and again, I appreciate the school committee and the school department stepping away from the 81,000 to free up some money to make this initiative
So this
happen.
rollout, this would be a large rollout to do this. I mean, for that magnitude, I think if we'll take a wet round and buy the champagne to break over somebody's head to do this, I think it's
This
important.
company that we deployed to roll out the recycling carts did it in 2 weeks.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
good.
the timing of it will be perfect. It's the education piece
Yep,
that
good.
Committee Member Gimber
Okay.
talked about.
Please, and please identify yourself for our secretary.
Sure thing. Tony Farrington, member of the Board of Selectmen. I just wanted to touch upon something that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, which is I appreciate your support for these pilot initiatives. And, you know, you used the term, we need to pull together as a team, and I couldn't agree with that more. Some of our institutional residents, we believe strongly, could be doing more in the form of financial contributions, cash contributions to the town. And Milton Academy and the hospital, you know, they understand that they don't exist in independent ecosystems of their own. We all coexist together. They're institutional residents of this town, and we've been working really hard, the pilot committee, along with my colleagues on the board, to inspire or motivate them to give something back to the town, and we're going to continue to do so. But I appreciate your public support of these initiatives and your willingness to work with us. And it's nice to hear you say that. I'd like to reach out to you, George.
Absolutely, and I say this in full disclosure, I was a trustee at Curry College for many years and take some credit in the recovery that happened in the late 1990s, early part of the last decade for its success. And I know Ken Quigley, the president, very well. He's a product of the Milton Public Schools. In fact, we met sitting in Miss Day's 7th grade geography class at the old Pierce Junior High School. May she rest in peace. She inspired us to be not just good students, but good friends, because we had to keep some sense of humor in that class. But anyway, the point is that Curry was terrific in so many ways in its programs that it uses here in the town. But there are other ways that the institutions and the non-resident students of these institutions who benefit from living in Milton for many months out of the year, and mommy and daddy at home who are giving them the credit cards to do all the things that they do that cost the town 911 calls, et cetera, can come and help out, offsetting those costs.
Of course, I
Absolutely.
agree 100%. One thing that we discovered in our work on the pilot committee is that recently, within the last couple of years, Milton Academy has changed its policy with respect to the young children in the lower school, the faculty children. And many of those kids in the lower school level, between K and 7th, 8th, 9th grade, are now in the Milton Public Schools. And I think the
Right.
figure is about 35 total.
Right.
At a cost per pupil of 14.2, comes to roughly $500,000.
In housing, by the way, that is taken off the tax rolls because it's owned by Milton Academy. So let's not forget that. They've been buying houses up that is contemporary, in close proximity to the school, if not contiguous to the school, off the tax rolls, sending 30-plus kids to the town, not paying anything at a cost of close to $400,000. So we're losing tax revenue and we're spending for students. Now, granted, they live in the town, et cetera, but there is an equity issue here. that
I agree.
identified that I think you see as well.
100%. And in fairness to Milton Academy, we're having great discussions, and I think we're making progress. We're not in the end zone yet, but we're moving the ball down the field. I think we're making some progress. Yes.
Well,
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on that?
Please do.
Selectperson Farrington, so what are your methods of inspiration?
My methods of inspiration. Frankly, just to try to shine a light on this and make people.
What I really mean is like, what is it that we're asking and what is it that we're telling them that they need to be doing, and what are the pressure points?
Well, there's 35 kids in the Milton Public School System that are faculty children of Milton Academy.
Yep.
And by my math, if you use a figure of $14,200, which is the cost per pupil to educate overall, I believe in the town of Milton, times 35, that's roughly $500,000 that we're spending to educate the sons and daughters of Milton Academy teachers. Now, those teachers don't contribute to town coffers in the form of property taxes.
Neither does the institution.
I understand that's the problem. What I'm asking is, what is it that we're asking, and how are we asking?
Well,
for it?
frankly, what I would like to see Milton Academy do is to write a check for $500,000 to cover the cost of those children that attend our schools. The payment in lieu of taxes, certainly you understand conceptually what we're asking them to do. I feel that by making a contribution in that amount, that gets us back to zero, frankly. I don't see that as a contribution per se. I see that as them compensating us for the cost that the taxpayers in the town of Milton are shouldering.
So can I just a follow-up? So again, just back to how we're gonna get them to write a check.
Right.
I guess this, all I'm trying to understand is, you say the discussions are going well, that's great. I just want to know, what is it, where are the roadblocks, and what is it how confident do we feel that we're going to see some of that check? And to the extent that there is some concern about speculating or revealing that information because it might derail these kinds of negotiations, I think I would understand that. But I guess I'm just trying to get a better picture of what this looks like as a practical matter.
As a practical matter,
What's the stick and what's the carrot?
Well, to follow up, that's what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no really legal method to compel them to do this. This is all voluntary negotiation.
that's correct.
And it's basically public information and the public perception of what they're doing for the town that is the stick in this. It's basically how the public are viewing these institutions and what they contribute to the town is the only stick we have.
That's right.
There's no legal compulsion for them to do anything.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
Well, I
correct.
think we can take things have happened in the past. We can take a leaf out of James Michael Curley's book. And in the 1930s, he was looking for contributions from the major banks for certain of the public works projects that weren't being funded by the city. And he asked these presidents of banks to come into his office and suggested to them that wouldn't it be awful if their vaults were flooded when there was a water main repair, and it would be unfortunate if these vaults got flooded because it was the city of Boston would be unable to send people to bail them out. So wouldn't it be easier for them to make the contributions to keep the services of the city at a level which could obviate a problem that might occur with their vaults getting
I believe
flooded.
that's why the
I mean, not that he was threatening anything, of
Of
course, but it was very creative, and it worked.
Question.
Christine.
For select board member. Farrington, I'm on the town website. Who's on the committee?
The pilot committee?
Right.
It's myself, Mike Dennehy, Matthew Keswick, Bob Reitz, and Jennifer Hine.
Okay. Just curious.
Well, we support whatever efforts, and if whatever we can do to help out, we will.
It's a member of the board. So just to give you a little background on the committee and its iteration, it always includes a member of the Board of Selectmen. It's always the town administrator. It's always a member from the Board of the Assessor's Office, which is Bob Reitz, and 2 citizens. It's a 5-person committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we, every year, we nominate new members.
Okay.
In any event, thanks.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Now, so we have all had these changes. We've had this presentation. Does anybody have any further questions? Because if that's the case, the warrant committee voted on the non-budget articles at its last meeting and on the introductory articles, which are perfunctory as part of the town. But I believe we can vote the budget in one vote, rather than go through the itemizations as they've gone through, because I think between what the subcommittees have done and what we've heard in the last 4 meetings, I think we're in a position where we can vote the articles, the remaining articles, and we can elaborate which those are right now, unless anyone has any objection. I do have an
I
objection.
do.
Please.
I wanna come back.
There's
to-
one that we do have to look at separately, and that's the capital budget.
I want to come back to the high school clubs that
Yep.
are on the table and on the chopping block, and I
Yep.
want to know, I know that there's no promises, I know that the state budget may or may not come in with some more money, but I really am not okay right now with cutting 50% of our school clubs. That is a massive amount, and most of them are the arts, they're the drama clubs, they are the things that the kids can't really get to during the day, and I want to know kind of where that's going to fall on the priority list if we do get some more money, because I cannot, in good faith,
Understood.
vote for this budget right now and approve it. I'm going to be a no vote because the schools have taken such a massive cut
Yeah, I get that.
that I just want to know from the town, where do they fall? Like high school clubs, of course, are going to be the lowest rung. And really, some of these kids, that is their lifeline, and that is what's going to get them into the colleges that they're applying to. So, can you give me any feedback on that?
Well, let's ask the superintendent to come. Mary, Superintendent Gormley, please. This is an issue. For many of us, it's an issue.
First, when I spoke before, I just wanted to say that working with Amy and Mike and the selectmen, with the school committee, we've never done that before in these meetings. And so the process worked. It was unbelievable. And to your point about clubs and activities, I'm not usurping your reply, but it was said yesterday with no intent, because these cuts and reductions come from the principals and then with central office. The town administrator said that things like the .2 positions or the clubs and activities are incremental. So it's not, we have to wait until we find $65,000 to replace a teacher. So I'm not saying, because you have other priorities, if funds come through, those cuts enable us to, if the town administrator and the selectmen decide a certain amount of money are going back to the schools, those are partial cuts. I don't have to wait until they tell me that we have $65,000. So they can be
They can be restored.
incremental in their replacing them, either the .2 cuts or clubs and activities. Did you want to?
No, not at all.
Can I ask a follow-up to,
I think
hold on one second, can I just ask a real quick follow-up? If, let's say, the clubs are gonna be cut in the fall, and the students that are part of that club decide that they want to pay the $175 or the $150. Thank you, the $150, is that a possibility for those students? Because I don't wanna just say we're chopping all the clubs, even if the students are like, yes, we're gonna raise the money ourselves.
I would have to speak to the school committee. I'm not deferring
would?
that decision. I would
Okay.
have to speak to the,
Okay,
they
thank you.
approve field trips.
Right.
So I would have to speak to the school committee
Okay.
about that. Again, as I said before, I don't think anyone should have to pay to play on a sports team or a club. So that's my baseline. Thank you.
Excuse me, Superintendent Gorman?
But,
Mike, you get your chance.
You're in the hot seat, sorry.
All right,
You're in the hot seat, sorry.
that's fine.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but have we recently hired administrative positions like assistant principals for the schools? And was there any consideration to reductions in the actual administration, like the assistant principals that you hired, instead of just the frontline teachers?
That's a great question. And when we sit down with the principals to do these cuts and reductions, if you look at the proposals we've made in past years, we look at everything from cafeteria employee, lunchroom aides, paras to teachers to administrators. And in the override, we took existing positions, curriculum directors, and we, at each elementary school that are now 600, 700 in number, we had curriculum directors. We added 2 positions so that each school has an assistant principal, half-time assistant principal, half-time curriculum coordinator. There were issues. If I have a meeting that has to be during the day, who's in charge of the 2,000 children? You know, it's a small town. You can get back to them, communication, expectations. And so if you did a comparative study, you really can't find 600 or 700 enrollment elementaries that don't have a half-time assistant. So that was the increase. We did look across the board. You know, it's difficult to say a position. There was one position that we were going to put forward. Well, if you just invested since the advancement initiative, I'll say, in elementary science curriculum, and this year, 1st and 2nd grade finished the cycle, it's difficult to say, I'm going to eliminate that position, elementary science, I'm not gonna belabor this, elementary teachers are teachers of reading, then math. You don't have science certified people. You're tested in science beginning at the 5th grade. So it's a great question. You finish spending the taxpayers' money for the curriculum, and the phrase in our field, if you don't inspect it, how can you expect it? And you need science experts. So we did look at the administrative positions. I could give you comparative data, but you'd point to the vice principals, assistant principals, they're half-time at the elementary. I could talk about safety, I could talk about communication with parents, I could talk about student achievement. But there isn't an administrator on the list. In past years, there have been.
But those
So
are
it
new
is.
positions.
In the override.
Okay.
But it's 2 new positions that, for me, it was 2 new positions, absolutely, but we use them creatively in each school to have a halftime. And you know what, there's another, and I'm not gonna belabor this, there's another option too, that you have to be a school person to understand. Those people are targeted to that school. I don't like hiring people that have to travel across town. For me, I'm paying somebody travel, so we have dedicated 1 person in each of our elementary schools. But you're right, 2 new
I just wanted to
positions.
avoid the situation that I've seen in corporations and things where they hire a lot
Yes.
of vice presidents and things and manage to fire all the secretaries. And then eventually they're not managing anybody. There's nobody actually left to do the work, but we
Yes.
have
Yeah.
a wonderful
And
VP.
you're absolutely right. A list that I put forward, you'll look in the past years, has always had administrators. Right now, I sort of shared
Just
with
not
you
this year.
the administrator that we would eliminate. Again, you're damned if you and damned if you
Yes.
don't. And we're paying taxpayers' money for curriculum. That
Yeah,
has to be.
Unfortunately, that's townwide,
Exactly,
budget-wide situation.
exactly. And I don't think that comparatively, and I can send you data from the communities, and you can look at the administrators that are in the district. But we're very sensitive
All of
to
that
it.
would be appreciated if you want to. say that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any further questions before we proceed? Please.
Can I just
Mike.
add one
Please,
more
please
comment
do,
to what
please. Yeah,
Superintendent
please do.
Gormley talked about
Yeah,
to
please
Ms.
do.
Bradley? The finance subcommittees for both the school committee and my select board are not done meeting. As soon as we get reports, we're gonna prioritize stuff and have a very dynamic discussion, robust at times, to get to where you think we need to get to, or someone who advocates for the libraries being open on Sundays.
Right.
Can we open them in the summertime?
Right.
Can we, right, so that, the conversations between the subcommittees will continue
Thank you.
And
until.
I think this is worthwhile, because it actually goes beyond the clubs and the library. We're talking also about overtime for the fire and police.
Yes.
I mean, which I think is also something that it's out of the equation, and certain of the other capital needs that are just being postponed or pushed down the road a while, just to satisfy the need to balance the budget. So I think there are plenty of things to talk about, and I don't want
And
it to be
again, it's not
just-
completely restoring all the funding back to one entity that we talked about today, or one program.
Right.
Maybe spreading it out a little bit,
Right.
you know.
But I think that, as we point out, our job right now is to look at this budget, present it to town meeting. I know there is going to be a very healthy level of discussion about many of these things, partially because of what goes on here, but also because of what we're presenting and the commentary that we'll put into the warrant report. And I guess now the issue is going to be getting this mobilized to the point where we can put the report together in lightning speed. So we do have to move forward. Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about the capital budget, and then we're going to proceed to a vote?
So, on behalf of the Capital Committee, I've presented to the Board of Selectmen the recommendation for the general fund. They have not yet voted a change for the trash barrel program, which the $350,000 that Mr. Dennehy talked about. In the sheet I handed out this morning, this is pretty
Everybody
much.
has this, I'm sorry, everybody has this, the 2020 capital summary.
Pretty much a summary of what I'm gonna present back to the Capital Committee as well as the Board of Selectmen. So any vote this body takes should be subject
To their approval.
to their approval. So I
With
just
respect
wanna
to the
be-
capital budget.
Yes,
And
to the
just,
capital budget.
just help me out one second before, as we do that, I want to single this out when we take the vote, which, I'm just looking now at these have been renumbered, the articles. What article number are we talking about?
I believe it's Article 5
5, okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
for the general.
Okay, we'll single that out.
Yeah, there's several different articles that cover capital. The main one is Article 5.
Right.
That includes a component of bonded capital as well as
Yes.
non-bonded capital. And then there's some articles towards the back of the warrant, Articles 19 through 22, which represent some of the enterprise fund capital, in Chapter 90, the state roadway program. So basically, the summary sheet that I gave you kind of rolls forward the changes that were made from what the Board of Selectmen and the Capital Committee has approved so far. So the Capital Committee approved a total general fund recommendation of $1,943,152, of which $810,601 was to be bonded, and $1,132,551 was non-bonded capital. That was made up of the use of some bond premium that the town received from the August 2018 bond issue, as well as some free cash and some other available funds, some remaining in the Hendry's demolition account as,
What was returned from that, by the way?
it's still sitting there.
Still
but-
sitting conservatively $150,000.
And can that be used, that's going to be rolled back in?
That's part of this
It's part of it, okay.
recommendation.
That's-
So the changes that are going to be proposed to those two bodies are to include the use of $350,000 of $175,000 from free cash and $175,000 from a rebate received on the recycle toters that our environmental coordinator, Hillary Waite, was instrumental in getting. We should be getting those funds any day now, but that's approximately $175,000 plus $175 in free cash to get us to the $350, which would, as Mr. Dennehy mentioned, we're projecting $150,000 in the fiscal year 20 increase in the revenue. Hopefully going forward, that may even be a little bit more than that, so we're pretty conservative on that estimate. As well as he mentioned, the schools delaying the
Wireless.
AP wireless in high-use areas. That will continue to be on the request in next year's budget, but they felt that in order to get, this to work, that they could delay that 1 year. So the revised recommendation that I'll be seeking will be $110,601 in bonded capital for general fund, $1,401,551 in non-bonded capital, for a total of $2,212,152. We'll need to add to that, which the capital committee has voted on this, but the selectmen have not. They've recommended a total of $475,000 for the water enterprise fund. That's comprised of a water dig truck with a compressor for $175,000 and a continuation of the meter replacement program for $300,000. The difference between what's being sought for bonding versus non-bonded, again, it relates to that August 18 bond premium. That was broken down based upon general fund versus each of the individual enterprise funds. We're seeking $600,000 for sewer enterprise, $300,000 for a pump station replacement, which would be bonded, as well as $300,000 for the meter replacement program. Anytime we buy a meter, it's half water, half sewer, so we split the cost between the two enterprise funds, of which $94,144 is the bond premium, so we would only have to bond approximately $206 on that for sewer enterprise. So the total recommendation for Article 5 would be $1,699,088 for bonded, $1,588,064 for non-bonded, for a total of $3,287,152. There is, if anyone's looking at the draft of Article 5 that I put together, I made one typo where I
Flipped the numbers. Right, I saw
the
that.
amounts for the sewer enterprise on the bonded. I put $300,000 for the sewer, the meters and the 205 for the pump. So that just will make that correction in the warrant. In addition to that, there's the other articles we mentioned. Chapter 90, from an estimate from Chase Berkeley, the DPW director, we're expected that will be $342,000. Water system improvements, $596,700. That's interest-free MWRA bonding. Stormwater rehab, total of $310,000, of which $89,951 relates to the bond premium, for a bonded amount of $220,049. And then finally, sewer system improvements of $914. Again, that's an MWRA program. A portion of that will be a grant, which is somewhere in the range of $668,000. The balance of around $228,000 is what we would bond interest-free. But we have to approve the full amount in order to spend it. So the total other articles, which are all Chapter 90 and various enterprise funds, are $2,576,042.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you for putting this together. This makes it very clear. Okay. Do we have any other questions for our town administrator? And we can proceed to votes.
Just like
Okay.
to thank them both for
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes.
extensive amount of work they've done.
Absolutely. And the town, and Chief Grant, Chief King, Chase Berkeley, well, at the library, Select Board, you really have worked very hard to pull this together with us, and we're grateful for that. So,
Mr. Chair?
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Town Administrator, I know that back whenever that last town meeting was, we voted to change the name of Select Men to Board and all that fun stuff.
Correct. Board of Selectmen to
Yep.
Select Board.
So I now know that it's at the Attorney General's office. Do we have any idea how much longer this is gonna take?
So we received a letter from the Attorney General's office yesterday approving certain articles,
Okay.
which have to be advertised for 2 weeks. That was not one of them. But
Oh.
in that letter, they did say they expect to address formally that by April 13th of 2018 was the typo in the letter. It's actually April 30th of 2019.
That wasn't done.
That wasn't happening,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Thank you
they
so much for that
So
update.
for that reason, the warrant
Right.
this year will continue to read Board of Selectmen rather
Oh,
than Select
okay.
Board because it hasn't been approved by the Attorney General's office.
Right, I just wanted, everybody in
413,
TV land will also know
413,
that.
19.
So I guess the question is,
Right.
how do we refer to the members of that committee, that group? Used to be
Still
called the town
selectmen.
council when I was a kid. Boy, am I dating myself. Go ahead.
So,
Technically still.
Technically, they're still the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, fine. That's all we need
Thank
to
you.
know. Thank you very much. Okay,
I appreciate
I'm in
that.
agreement with Mr. Zulus.
fine. We'll take that. Okay, if there's no other objection, we can proceed to the votes.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair, before we proceed to the vote? Not a.
Yes.
This is a procedural question.
Yes.
If I may, so what articles are we voting on?
I'm going to go through them now.
Okay, but the reason I ask,
Yeah.
and you can anticipate my question, so, do we have to vote on them today, is my second question?
We do have to vote on them
We
today.
have to vote on
We
them
have to
today.
vote
Okay,
on
never
them
mind.
today. We don't have an alternative.
I'm all set. Thanks.
Because our next meeting technically, would be next Wednesday, should it be required.
Well, I'll state what my concern is, but it's mooted, but I'll state it anyway.
Go ahead.
I have noticed that sometimes in our need to be quick in votes after we've received information, that we sometimes allow for a number of errors in the text of both the recommendation, both the article and the recommendation.
Occasionally, yes. I will
And
disagree.
my only question was whether there was going to be enough time to be able to actually do some careful proofreading, but if that's not the case, we can.
Well, the proofreading is going to be critical because we're under even more pressure to get this done.
We're actually voting on the language of the article.
Yes,
the
yes.
reason I asked.
And so the proofreading is something that has to occur. That, technically, we're not voting on our proofreading, we're voting on the language. And the printing and the actual mechanics of it are something that, we have many eyes on this, many eyes on this. and
Just to
still
clarify, we're
we-
voting
we-
on our recommendations,
Yeah.
the languages of our recommendations. Sorry.
So the
I'm
recommendations.
not going to believe, I mean,
Yes.
I'm not
No,
going
I
to quibble
understand
because
that.
we have to vote.
No, I take that as a point, because, yeah, sure, we do the best we can, but even with half a dozen people looking at it, we still have things that go through that shouldn't. At our last meeting, we approved Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, Article 6, Article 7, Article 8, Article 9, Article 10, and I believe Article 11. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, the problem is we have to compare last year's.
Yes.
To.
Yeah, Chapter 13, position classification, wage increase.
Yeah, so capital has to be voted on.
Yes. And then
Last year's Article 6. to
Article
the money.
6, the bond authorization.
Yes.
Yeah, we approved that one. And then we also approved we approved Blue Hills Regional, which is Article 28. And we approved the Affordable Housing Trust, which is 37, and the Home Rule Petition, which is Article 38. And I think that was it. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, my pen is running out of ink, 8, 9, 10, and I believe 11 also, Chapter 13. So I think we would begin with the public safety and follow through all the way to the school's appropriation. Is there any objection to going through and doing these as a block? Because we all have the numbers, we've seen it, we've had testimony, we've asked questions, and I believe we are. So I will just entertain a motion for approval of Article 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, bond authorization, 7, audit appropriation, 8, union wage set aside. I beg your pardon, we already did that. Let me start here. Public safety appropriation, general government appropriation, boards and committees appropriation, public works appropriation, water enterprise fund appropriation, Article 17, sewer enterprise fund appropriation, Article 18, stormwater enterprise fund appropriation, Article 19, Chapter 90 appropriation, Article 20, appropriation for water system improvements, Article 21, appropriation for rehabilitation of town stormwater system, Article 21, appropriation for sewer system improvements, Article 23, health and sanitation appropriation, Article 24, library appropriation, Article 25, cemetery appropriation, Article 26, parks department appropriation, Article 27, school appropriation, skipping 28, which we already approved, Article 29, school building committee appropriation, Article 30, consolidated facilities appropriation. We approved interest in maturing debt appropriation already. Article 32, stabilization funds appropriation. Article 33, other post-employment benefit trust appropriation. Article 34, fiscal year 20 reserve fund appropriation. Article 35, authorize use of revolving funds. And 36, PEG access and cable-related fund. And I think that's it. So, Chair will entertain a motion to approve those as stated.
Question?
Yes.
Is that PEG article been
It's
voted
still
on?
pending,
Oh,
so we can do it pending the let's take that one out, and we'll do that in Article 5, because those are both going to be subject to approval by the Select Board at their next meeting. So, those articles less Article 36,
so moved.
discussion.
Is there a second?
Oh, sorry, discussion.
I'll second it.
All right, we've been second, now is there discussion? Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Don't be so enthusiastic. Any opposed? Yeah, okay. Raise up. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favor. Chair does not vote, other than to break a tie. Okay, we're approved, we're done. So, Article 5, capital equipment appropriation, as described earlier by Amy Dexter, and the PEG Access Capital Fund. Chair will entertain a motion to approve these, subject to the approval of the Select Board at their next meeting, and the Capital Committee for Article 5. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All any opposed? Done. Thank you all. Do you have a question, Dr. Pavlicek?
Question, did we vote the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? You said you voted that previously.
We did.
In the discussion this morning, we decreased that.
That's right.
What number did you vote on it previously?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have
reopen that
to, we have to
vote.
revise that, because the Affordable Housing Trust
Thank
was
you.
reduced by, thank you very much.
50,000.
Because, yeah, we already voted that. Thank you very much. The Affordable
Okay.
Housing Trust was reduced, let me look at my note here.
It's reduced to 0.
To 0, okay, by 50,000. Okay.
How
So,
much?
To 0 from 50,000.
Oh, because there's only 50,000.
there was only 50,000, so,
It was 50,000 to the trust, now it is 0 contribution to the trust.
okay. So, we have a revision. Affordable Housing Trust appropriation is now at 0, so we have to retake
So
that
move
vote.
to reopen that vote?
Reopen that vote. Article, we have a motion to reopen the vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of 37, Affordable Housing Trust appropriation to 0, based on the information that we received today, and to balance the budget. Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
moved on the new amount?
On the new amount.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Thank you very much, Glenn. That's very helpful. Okay, so now, housekeeping. We have to draft these things very quickly.
By when?
Have fun.
We're all going to share. This is a, we are a team, and everybody on the team gets to play their position. So we have a series of these. We know that the subcommittees have already met, and the subcommittees have already been in place to do much of this work. I have the library, thank you, Christine, already drafted. Several of these do not need to have comments. What will need a comment is the capital equipment appropriation. So I'm entertaining volunteers for these things. And we all have to do, I think we all have to do 1, 2, there's basically 10 of us here.
What's the due date, George?
The due date, let's try for Wednesday night. I know that's hard. Wednesday night. It doesn't look like, it appears we will not need a meeting on Wednesday. So we have to have these in place so that we don't overburden our long-suffering clerk to get these in hand. We're already going to be behind the 8 ball with the printer, but the printer's just going to have to go on overdrive like the rest of us.
Which ones need?
We're going to go through. Go ahead, please. Yeah, I'm going to flip through.
Some of them are actually written by town council.
Yes, some of them already have comments.
So maybe it's worth.
So let's just flip. Does everybody have a copy of the hard copy?
No.
Okay, if you don't, oh, only a few of us have it. Okay, so to go through, we have a comment for,
For Article 4.
we have a comment already for Article 4 needs a comment, and that's the Legislative Committee.
We haven't voted on it.
Oh, yes. We voted on that one.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
voted on that.
We
Please,
don't know
Amy.
what the legislative committee does.
Yeah.
I may have written or updated some of the comments from last year.
Yeah.
So even though you see a comment there, you might want to assign it
Take a
to
look at it.
somebody to review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We can do that. Okay. So, for our purposes, let's go back. Article 4 needs a comment. That's the discharge of the legislative committee. Volunteer. The chair hates assigning things.
I'll volunteer, Mr.
Okay. My pen is dead, so let me write it. Take another one. All right, who is the sturdy fellow with that one? Chris? Okay. Article 5, the capital budget. Oh, wait a minute, Tom Hurley suggested he would do that, didn't he? Yes, he did. Tom said he would do that, God bless Tom. Thank you very much. Tom is doing Article 5. Article 6 is the unused portions of amounts authorized to pay for different projects.
I'll do that, Aaron. I'll
Aaron.
do that.
Okay, Article 7, this is for the municipal audit. That one just has to be reviewed. I'll just review that, okay? Just to make sure it's, Article 8 is the, we have a comment already there for non-school.
This likely falls into the category of what.
Yeah,
index
yeah,
was.
exactly right, I'm just looking at
Plug
that
some of the
now.
numbers in, but we still need to review.
Right, make sure that it's all consistent. This is the cost this is the cost of items that don't fall in departmental budgets. Who wants to do that one? That's just a review.
I'll do that one, that's fine.
Brian. Okay, we're getting there. 9, there's a comment for this one. This is the contributory retirement. All right, this one looks reasonably comprehensive. This is a review again for that one. Who would be willing to volunteer for that one, just to double check the numbers are all consistent? I think that's what that would take. This one is not heavy. Brian, thank you. Okay, Article 10 is the employment security, Division of Employment Security for unemployment. That one needs a cost, that's very simple. I don't even know that we have to do beyond what's there. Does anybody think we need more than that? I think that one's okay, so that one we'll just put in as is. Okay, general purposes, Article 11, which has all of the positions of the town identified. It's a very long one. Again, this is not, the comment is here already. This is a review. Who is willing to review that one, to make sure that the numbers are consistent? That's the important part here.
I'll review it.
Oh, Aaron, okay, we'll let Aaron do
It's
that.
important to call out that the numbers, making sure that we've accuracy in the numbers.
And make
We
sure
have to
that
go
they
back and
jive.
adjust these
I'll put
Right.
my newspaper hat back on. and
Exactly
review it
right,
anyway.
that's just what's required here. Okay, so, Article 12 is the appropriation for public safety. Who did that, public safety? Oh, Kathleen, okay. Okay, that's right, you got that one. Okay, you're keeping track of this too, right?
Yep,
Okay, good.
there's a bunch of us tracking them.
Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, Article 13 is general government.
That was
I
Tom
believe
and
Tom and
I.
myself are on general.
Okay, did Tom
that
say he was
small?
gonna do
Yes,
that? Tom said he was gonna do that one too, general
Yeah.
government. Tom
And he
Hurley.
said DPW too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tom
that's
and
right,
I-
he said
Tom and I will do
DPW, then he didn't, then the one on the capital budget was not Tom. So
No,
we-
that's also, that's
was-
Tom
Did he
as
say
well.
he was
He's been
gonna
on that
draft
committee
it?
for quite some
Yeah, but
time.
did he say he was gonna draft it is the question?
Yes, he did on Wednesday.
Okay, I just want to double check because I don't have my notes in front of me. Article 14 is boards and committees of the town. That needs a comment. Who's willing to do that one?
I'll try.
Rosemary, thank you. Article 16 is the Water Enterprise Fund.
15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tom and I will do 15.
15. Okay. Okay, that's Tom. Brian. Okay. Da-da-da-dum. All right, Article 16, that's the water, Article 16 is the Water Enterprise Fund.
Same boat.
Okay, and the comment is already there, so that can be just reviewed. Do you want to
Yeah,
review that one,
yep,
Brian?
yes.
Okay. Article 17 is the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and again, that one already has a comment.
Same, yeah.
So, okay, thank you. Okay, Article 18 has the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, and that does not have a comment. Okay, very good. Article 19 is constructing of road construction, ways under provisions of general laws, et cetera. That does not have a comment. It needs one. Who's willing to draft that one?
Is that considered local aid?
I'm sorry?
Is that like the local aid from the state, chapter 90? Is that right? It's a grant, it's the
Yeah.
local aid. Okay.
Aaron, is that you?
Oh, gosh, I wasn't volunteering.
Oh, darn it.
George, I was just asking a question.
Okay, just, you can't blame me for asking.
I will do it if nobody else will.
Okay, do we have anybody else who's willing to do it? Remember, we are a team, we want to spread this as much
I
as we
can
can.
try Article 19.
Doug? Thank you, Doug. Article 20. This is MWRA, this is sewers and water, yes? That needs a comment as well.
Christine can do that.
Chris?
Christine.
Oh,
Yep.
yes, okay,
Did I
Christine.
sound like Chris?
I'm sorry, we've been
You're
at this.
empowered to speak for her, are you not?
Have a little water.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't hear Christine speak up, but that's okay.
I'm volunteering.
All right, Article 22 is capital needs for, again, the sewer system.
21.
Oh, 21, yeah, I got Christine for that one.
Nope, that's
No.
20.
Oh, she's 20, I'm sorry, I'm way ahead of myself, wait a second, here we go, 20. Comment. Christine, okay, so 21 is,
21 stormwater.
Storm- no, 22 is no, 21,
Sewer system.
21 is stormwater, I'm sorry. Okay,
Rehabilitation.
who wants to do stormwater? Don't all scream. I know, this is gripping stuff.
All right, put me down, 21.
Okay, Kevin.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, 22 is the sewers. Capital needs for the sewer system. That needs a comment. Anybody up for doing sewers?
Chris Hart.
Oh, Chris, thank you. 23 is health and sanitation. Needs a brief comment. Nobody, oh, Kathleen, thank you. Catherine, not Kathleen. Okay, library, we already have. Thank you, Christine. That's Article 24. 25 is the cemetery. Who was on this? Do we have cemetery? We didn't do a cemetery subcommittee.
Clinton.
Oh, Clinton, right, we haven't seen Clinton. We can't assign him if he's not here because we have to have it done.
Why?
Well,
They
You
were on
won't
the
know we
committee.
need to write it by Wednesday.
I do, but I just want to make sure that he's going to be able to, okay, fine, Clinton, you're on. Clinton, if you're out there in TV land, we're going to have to send him an email telling him he has to say, he'll have to do it. Okay, thank you. Clinton, okay, good man. Okay, Article 26 is Parks and Rec. They gave such a nice presentation, I really hate cutting them back. Who would like to do Parks and Rec?
Who was on the committee?
I'll do it.
Oh, Brian, thank you. We're getting there, folks. Article 27 is the schools. Who was that? Who did a? Oh, Gwendy. Ooh,
Oh, yeah, she did.
Wendy, yeah.
I actually will do that, but then I'm done.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a,
I want to do that.
Yeah, you want to do that one. Okay, good, thank you. Blue Hills Regional.
No.
please. I'll do Blue Hills.
Okay, Aaron. Article 29 is
School building.
schools, the school building committee. Does anybody have a particular interest in that? And then make sure we have the right amount for that too.
Great.
Oh, I should do 25 too.
$40,000 is there. We don't have a comment for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Do we have anybody?
School building
School
committee?
building committee, the $40,000 to authorize it.
I can do that one.
Okay, Christine, thank you.
Is that 29?
29.
That's 29. 30 is consolidated facilities. We have a brave soul for that
What's
one.
consolidated?
What was it, whoever was on
Consolidated.
the
Who did-
whoever did the
Yes.
subcommittees,
Building
just George.
grounds.
So I would advocate rather than, let's take a look at who's on the subcommittee.
Yeah,
for
who's
these
on the
and just decide
subcommittee
They're
for
voluntary
consolidated?
people on the
Consolidated.
subcommittees.
Do you have that at hand, at fingertip? Yeah, take your time. All right, if that's the case, okay. Some of these we didn't because they were small.
Right.
Okay, so we're on, I'm sorry.
Consolidated facilities.
Yeah, whoever gets schools, that's it.
Did we sign one for that?
No, it just it falls within the difference.
General government, parks, rec, insurance, retirement, boards, and committees.
Those are general. I didn't think we signed any because it was small. Okay, we did not have anybody because it was a small figure. Who would like to do consolidated facilities? To write the comment.
It should be perfunctory, I can do that.
Doug, thank you. 31 is interest in maturing debt. That has, does that have a comment? It does have a comment. I'll look at that one. I know a little something about that sort of thing. 32.
Wait, who was 30?
I'll do 30.
30 was
Did we assign 30? We assigned 30, yeah?
Yes.
30 is Doug.
Consolidated
31
facilities.
is maturing debt. I'll do that one. 32 is stabilization, capital stabilization, and road stabilization funds. We only have a few more, guys. Almost there. Let's, who are we not?
I'll take 32 then.
You'll take 30? 32?
Yeah.
Kevin, okay, thank you.
I mean, that's- Kevin, do that
33
every year, right?
is post-retirement benefits.
I'll do that.
Aaron, wow, Aaron, thank you. 34 is reserve fund. It has a comment already. Who wants to review that one? I think that one's going to be very perfunctory.
I'll do that one.
As long as the dollar
Rosemary?
amount's right.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rosemary.
Rosemary's gonna do it? Yes.
Rosemary. Aaron, you're doing tons too. Rosemary, thank you for your help. Revolving funds, this one is a little more
I didn't
involved.
say that. did
Revolving funds?
I? Is the comment already there or no?
No, there's no comment.
No, there's no comment at
I
all.
think we might assign this one. And I'm guessing revolving funds.
Clinton.
I think Wendy. Wendy Long.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Yeah. Article 36 is the PEG Capital Related Fund. That one is still,
Pending.
That's pending.
that one's still pending, so, okay, thank you, Amy. And you can help when that's done, and then I'll just send it to me and I'll review that. 37 is Affordable Housing Trust. That one's easy because there's zero.
We should explain why
We
it's
should
zero.
explain why. I'll do that. I'll
Aaron,
do that.
okay. I think that one's gonna take a little explanation because
Yeah.
you say the add backs to balance the budget is basically the,
And people are gonna be mad.
exactly right.
I want to reach out to Katie Collins too. I believe she might be on that committee.
She's on the affordable housing.
Yep. Okay,
Melinda Collins. I think so.
okay, and then this
Select.
is for the investments, the town treasurer to make prudent person investments. Comment? Does anybody want to take this one on?
What number are we on, George?
38.
38, prudent person. Tom's got lots of them. I think we'll assign it to Clinton.
Yeah.
Oh,
or
Susanna. Yeah. All right. If she wants, that'd be good. And then 39 is the bylaw review committee.
Susanna. Like, oh.
30.
This is just extending the term of the bylaw review committee.
I'll do
Oh.
39.
Kevin, 39. 40. This is,
Can we
this
just
is,
use what we already did? I mean, I wrote a really long thing for that last, for the
which,
special.
for the kidder?
For the kidder.
Yeah, if it comes through, we can just,
We can recycle that,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
so you-
nothing has changed.
No.
Okay.
Other than we have some grassroots concern, interest,
Understood.
et cetera. And you might want to put a little of that reflection, but I don't think it necessarily changes anything.
I'll take
I-
that one and just
Well,
recycle.
I
So-
sent
so-
something to you last night.
You did.
I added, I just
You added
added a
onto
little.
it?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but I can send it.
Yeah,
Can you send it
so,
to Doug?
so just for our own edification, the library trustees are meeting Monday, and they're voting whether or not they want to have this resubmitted, okay?
okay.
So we may have to have a meeting Wednesday to consider that, just to vote on it. It'll be a very short meeting, but we still have to do it. The other alternative is that we put it through and vote it the morning of the, the evening, I should say, of the town meeting, which would be valid too. It'd be a little bit of a stretch, but we could do that.
Will we then have to add it as a blue sheet, or could we, it
no,
does
it'd
need
be
to be
print-
printed in the warrant? I mean, if we haven't
Couldn't be
voted on it,
It
we
couldn't be
print it.
printed. Yeah, I think we might have to do this as, yeah, we just follow letter of the law. Amy?
If I understood you
Yes.
correctly, I believe the Board of Selectmen voted to include that article in the warrant at Wednesday night's meeting.
Oh, it has been voted.
And I
Okay,
will-
so,
And Will Focarelli, not Will.
John Focarelli.
John Focarelli from the Library Trustees
Yeah,
is here.
yeah.
I think the issue is on the table that they may potentially
Bring it
vote to
back.
pull it
oh,
or to have an
Amend.
amendment to send it back. So
Okay.
they decided on Wednesday that it would be included in the warrant, and then if something changes, it would be easier to take it out.
remanded
and
at
throw it.
the town meeting.
They can-
Okay.
So we can just use
Just
what we
use
had
it, yeah,
last time
exactly,
with
yeah,
Doug's
yeah,
addition.
okay,
If
that's
they
fine.
approved it, we can vote on it, and then they can change it or amend it as friendly. or
Exactly right.
Whatever, at
Yeah.
the town
Right,
meeting.
right. So
But I said
in
that-
point of fact,
Thank you.
we have to revote on Article 40, because
Yes.
if that's been the case, we
If
should
they
vote on
approved
this.
it, we need to vote on it.
Okay, so the article,
But we can't vote until they meet on Monday.
oh, no, no,
No,
no.
she said
this-
they
no,
already did approve
They
it.
can
I'm-
vote, yeah, but the
I'm-
town,
I'm on my,
but the,
Contingent upon her being correct, then
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen has voted on it.
they have voted on this, so in
Then
fact, we
I
do
would
have to
make a
vote on this
motion that
tonight. This
we-
is one we didn't. Okay, so, we'll take one more vote.
Yes. That's- I'll
Article
make a
40.
motion.
Go ahead,
let's just
Amy.
confirm with,
All right.
that I understood it correctly.
Mike, are we obliged to vote on Article, what is appearing as Article 40 here, to vote to transfer the Kidder Library property, the one that we voted on twice
Selectmen
already?
voted to put
What's
that
the
in,
status
correct?
of that?
So the selectmen voted to submit that,
So we do have to vote on it. Fine, that's what I needed to know.
But
but the library trustees are meeting Monday night, and we'll know more after that meeting.
Okay, for our purposes, we still have to vote on it. And if they come to us and say remand it, or we'll take it back, or whatever, we'll do something at
it'll
that
be a
point.
friendly amendment.
Right.
Okay.
But right now, we can take a vote.
It's been forwarded to town meeting. Yeah.
Okay, so.
We do have to vote.
Article 40, to see if the town will vote to transfer the former Kidder Branch Library property at 101 Blue Hills Parkway from the trustees of the Milton Public Library for library purposes to the trustees of the Milton Public Library for the purpose of sale of said property, and further, to authorize the trustees of the Milton Public Library to sell said property for such consideration and upon such terms as the trustees of the public library deem appropriate, and to act on anything related thereto.
So moved.
Move that we recommend to approve the article.
Approve the article. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
No discussion.
Okay, hearing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1. And,
We do have a quorum.
Do we have a
right,
quorum?
we have a
We
quorum.
do
We have a
still have a
quorum.
quorum, yes.
Yep, okay. 6 to 1. Approved.
So if you want to just
All
check
right,
over
and
what
you
I
can
wrote,
recycle
submit that.
what we
I'll
have.
recycle it.
But you might have to take out the part about being a close vote at that point. I mean, just
nice.
review what was
Nice.
there, because I think I
Yeah.
wrote that one.
Well,
And,
that might be in the beginning.
yeah, take a look at it, take a
No,
look at it.
it's
Yeah.
halfway through. You
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
review what it,
Okay.
as
Okay,
context. I
Amy,
left it,
please.
But I added on.
Just,
Okay.
You can just review
one
what.
comment
Okay.
that I'm sure all of you are aware of. While you're writing these comments, please feel free to reach out to me or the department head that's related to that article, or the board and committee, as well as, even though there aren't some comments in there, you probably want to start with last year's first, because a
Right.
lot of these are very, very generic.
And they're
You
formulaic.
don't need to
Right.
reinvent the wheel.
Right.
It's more the budgetary ones, especially whereas we have reduced.
And make sure the
From
numbers are
past, that
consistent.
might be
You
a-
have to
yeah.
make sure the numbers are consistent with the table. That is, having been in finance for 30-some-odd years, when you don't have that consistency, that throws everything into question, and you don't want to be inconsistent.
Lynn, is last year's on the drive?
It is, yeah.
And if you can't.
And there's hard copy too, if you need it. We can get hard copy to you. But again, I urge you, and again, very, very deep thanks to all of you for putting up this couple of hours on a Saturday morning. Erin?
Thank you for offering to contact you. What's the
Yeah.
best way to contact you?
Town website.
Email, please.
Email through the town website.
Email through the town? The town?
Well, it's adexter@townofmilton.org.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can call too.
Oh, I know how to get hold of Mike,
For the
no
record,
worries.
Mr. Danny volunteered to help.
Okay, and Mike, we all have your email. Okay, and I have to revise what I had already started to draft as our greeting to the town of Milton for this particular warrant, because things have changed substantially. And one of the points that I'm raising is something that we have raised here is revenue, because we don't have options anymore. And I know that there are concerns that have been voiced over the years about certain things that haven't happened. But I think we are really approaching an inflection point that we can't ignore anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that our next meeting will probably not be on Wednesday. I think we're okay, unless I get an SOS from somebody. If I file an agenda, be prepared for it to be suspended or postponed or canceled.
Okay.
So I think if this is the case, again, the chair offers sincere gratitude to everybody who came, all the department heads, town administrator, town
Mr. Chair,
accountant.
just a question.
Yes, sir.
When is the latest date you would have to file an agenda for any?
Monday morning.
Monday morning?
Yeah, I think
So like
that's the
8
case.
o'clock Monday morning.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Lynn, we're sending
we're
all
pa-
these to you?
These go to Lynn.
You can copy George if you want.
Yeah, you can send,
Okay.
copy me if
By
you want, but
Wednesday? At
yes.
5?
Yes.
Close of business Wednesday if you can do
And
it.
I just need some time to pull all these
Yeah.
together and put them in the draft
Right.
and make sure the fonts are correct, so I need a
Yep.
full day.
Yeah. And again, Lynn, thank you very much.
Yes.
We, on our behalf, we know what it takes. And we decided, I think, a couple of those, you get to go to heaven with your clothes on after this. So anyway,
They got a good outfit.
yes, that too, or wherever you go after you go. So if this is the case, is there any new business we need to consider? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Happy Saturday, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.